Alright, so now we'll do the what I'm gonna start calling the coiled spring. Tell you what I'm gonna do. We'll do this a little bit differently. I was gonna do part 1, part 2, part 3, but I really don't want you watching what I have to say without understanding the whole judgment thing, first of all, and the fact that my motivations are anti-substance abuse. And although, yeah, I'm wired like an addict from birth, I'm actually quite a non-addict. You know, at heart. Like, for real. So, when I say getting high or euphoric, I'm not talking about dopamine per se. In fact, dopamine, what the fuck is that shit? I don't fucking hardly ever feel that fucking shit. Because they all been burned out when I was a kid. You know? All that beating in my brain and all them drugs being pumped up into me. Not to mention I come out of the fucking womb fucking hooked on fucking methamphetamine, from what we understand. It was somewhere between heroin and methamphetamine category. Possibly both. See what I'm getting at? That female did all that shit when she was pregnant with me. I came out of the womb fucking dependent on these fucking hard drugs. Yet, it's the last thing I do. At this point, because I can't get the medication and I'm not willing to take the risk of being a criminal and a felon and going to prison because I just wanted my seizures to stop the right way. So it'd be a lot easier to just kill myself. Of course, Dr. Pan was right in a way. So, like I said, without $10,000, the ability to travel several states away, relocate for, 8 to 10 weeks, travel back, then go see a doctor, and then take that test monitoring certification that I paid you just heard, $10,000, 10 states away, 10 weeks away. Take that certification, hang that doctor, say, look, I indeed am having seizures in my sleep. And the doctor say, you're lying. I'm gonna be like, motherfucking nigga, I fucking... Sorry about that N-word. Again, not racist, okay? If anything, I'm pretending I'm talking to Dr. Pan or a psychiatrist, and I'll be honest with you. I've met one neurologist, and he's Chinese. I've met several nurses, and a couple of practitioners that were black. Believe it or not, one of them, in particular, a larger black male that works at the Fort Walton Beach Mental Hospital, in the psychiatric treatment unit, inpatient, is actually a really good fellow. Me and him actually really get along. He really makes my stay there a lot easier, and I'm sure he doesn't mind having me around as a patient because, again, it's reciprocal. But the one thing I have noticed, almost all the psychiatrists I've ever met were white. The downside is, I've only met like 2 or 3 of them. One of them was in an emergency room, and he did what he's supposed to. I said, hey, I'm having adrenaline releases as soon as I nod off, which is basically keeping me from falling asleep. And this was right before I completely put together that those are actually psychogenic seizures, partial complex psychogenic seizures. End of story. Nothing else. That is exactly what those are, but I wasn't completely confident and completed in my analysis of it at that moment. But he, as a good psychiatrist, instantly, this fellow's having seizures. Get him some pills. He came back a couple minutes later. He's like, here, take these. And I'm like, whoa, hey. And again, in the back of my mind, I've already got most of this figured out. I just didn't. I don't play like a card game. I don't play all my cards right away now with these insane doctors. So he came back and he's like, this is alprazolam, 1 milligram. And I said, Xanax? Whoa, hey doc, wait a minute. I'm not a drug addict. Again, I knew what I was doing at this point, but I'm just like, I'm shit testing this motherfucker because they took my fucking phone because they called it a mental patient visit. So they took, even though I'm only in the ER, they still hadn't pushed me over to the, the next city over to the treatment center, the inpatient. So I'm sitting in the ER. In fact, this is what's so cool about this whole situation and why. Look at all the waste. Look at all the waste in the medical community. All right. He got me that pill. He come back. He said, "Here, take this." I'm like, "What is it?" Like, alprazolam, 1 milligram. I said, "Xanax." "Wait, doc, I'm not an addict." He said, "I never said you were. But this is what you need to fix your problem so you go to sleep." Again, in my mind, I'm kind of playing dumb just to shit test this guy. I'm like, is this really alprazolam? Because I don't have my phone. I can't pill check this. And I don't take anything without double checking. And he said, "Yes, I promise you this is what this is. I'm a this is blah, blah, blah. I'm not allowed to lie to you at this point on this." I took it. 30 minutes later, I don't know what happened because I woke up like 14 hours later. And in a good state. And I didn't even need another one right away. It took a little while to build up, and if I work super hard in between to maintain, I can still avoid the majority of that kind of seizure. But then I have the problem with the deep sleep seizures. And that's where, like the lorazepam or clonazepam will help straighten that out. And that's what I really should do. I should have access to all three. If I'm not having trouble in my deep sleep, then I don't need a lorazepam. But honestly, being on a mild dose, constant dose of clonazepam might not be a terrible idea for me at this point. And then again, having the Xanax on demand. Just, I lay down and just, 5 minutes later, I'm like, I'm going to be doing this for the next 5 hours if I don't just go lay down. But I'm not a felon, so I don't do that. I'm not a criminal, so I don't do that. I just suffer from the seizures in my sleep all the time since I was beaten as a baby because my biological birth giver was allowed to do what she did to me and got paid for it by our government. Oh, fucking shit. So, I just realized that N-word almost slipped out again. Really isn't racism. It's a hatred for the corruption in our government. That's what I'm calling the N-word. I'm not calling even individual people that word at this point. I just now coming to notice, and you guys got to notice this with me. I didn't use that N-word talking about a specific person or even a race of people, but a category of person. I sure did. Any tyrannical, anybody who works for a government, works in our government, and isn't actively, like almost anti-demonically possessed, fighting this bullshit to the teeth, that they are part of that category I'm talking about when I use the N-word. So it's not a race of people. It didn't color your skin. Like I've been always saying, it's the color of your heart. You go into government, you steal my tax dollars, and then you give it to these females to go do drugs that I can't even go buy to the store to go treat the symptoms of that abuse, and then you give them welfare and then throw the sperm donor in fucking prison because he was too poor to fucking pay for the child, even though he shouldn't have to because it's her body, her choice, motherfucker, bitch. She should have been able to should have been required to get an abortion, or I should have been taken away from her at birth. But no, that isn't profitable for a government. That doesn't support child slave labor for our government. That doesn't support taxation without representation by a government. That doesn't support throwing people in prison for owning inanimate objects that they earn themselves in a free country. It is what it is, motherfuckers. So, I digress. Alright, now, so anybody who works in the tyrannical government and isn't an actively activist anti-corruption, suck my dick. Y'all. So, let's get back to getting high and the euphoria again. Been what, almost a half hour now? Oh, you gotta love ADHD, huh? So, let's do a part 3.